There's trouble in paradise, Rocha. Yeah. There's trouble out there. Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman might be headed for a breakup. If that happens, I posed the question on Twitter last night, who would you guys like to see Paul Heyman manage next? We're going to talk about him.
ProWrestlingSheet.com.
All right, so as you guys saw last night on Monday Night Raw, Brock Lesnar went crazy. Yeah. He said that he's not friends with Paul Heyman, that Paul Heyman works for him. And then at the end of Raw, even though it looked like there was all a ruse like they've done many a time, he still got physical with Paul Heyman. He choked him out, had him on the ground. Paul Heyman's like, you're choking me, which leads many people to believe that we're going to see a breakup between the two of them in the near future. Yeah. I mean, there's the rumors that Brock Lesnar's on the way out, so it only makes sense. Now, last night on Twitter, I asked who Paul Heyman should manage next, and I got a crap ton of responses. But here are some of the ones that I like the most. We're going to talk about them. So the first one, I think the one that got the most replies was Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
Bobby Lashley is one that look, he is struggling on the mic. He's clearly who Vince sees as the replacement Brock, MMA guy, buff, scary, tough. Do you think it would work having Paul Heyman as his manager, advocate?
No, because I don't think so, because the thing with Lesnar is, even though he can't talk on the mic, Lesnar is an imposing personality and presence. He has a certain kind of charm in his brutalness that people love in the WWE, and the fact that he's had success on the UFC as well as a champion gives him even more credibility. The thing with Bobby's a freak, he's a freak, but the way he moves around the ring, there isn't that kind of menace or dread that you get with Lesnar.
Absolutely.
So even if he became a heel, I still think it wouldn't work. I don't think Heyman would have enough material to work with here.
I almost feel like it would be similar to when he managed Ryback. I feel like,
perfect.
It was very similar to that, where, it doesn't have the same feel behind it.
Yeah.
I don't think that it would add to Bobby Lashley's character at all. I think Bobby Lashley does need a manager.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't think Paul Heyman is the right fit for him.
Where's Jimmy, the mouth of the South, when you need him? He would have handled Lashley perfectly.
There's a manager on the Indies named Stokely Hathaway that I always see people talk about that I think would be perfect for that job.
Perfect.
Another one I saw a lot of is Asuka.
Asuka don't need no manager, son. Asuka handles her business, and she's good on the mic. She's actually really entertaining on the mic. That's why I don't like what's happening to her and Shinsuke, because I feel like they're being buried a little bit because they're Japanese and their English isn't 100% perfect, and with the accent, I think that's what's bothering. But they're funny on the mic. She is really good. She plays the comedic moments, and so does Shinsuke. So I don't think she needs a manager at all.
Yeah, and I agree with you that less is more with Asuka.
Yeah.
Less is more with Asuka.
Yes.
I like that she has these Japanese promos sometimes, and you don't really know what she's saying, but you know that she means it. That she knows that whatever she's saying, it's not something that you want to be the brunt of. It's definitely not. And so I agree with you. As much as some people might feel like she needs a mouthpiece because she doesn't speak perfect English, I'm with you. I like it. I think that there's no need whatsoever. Now, someone who does need a manager, I think, is Authors of Pain.
Yeah.
Do you think that Heyman would bring anything to that table, any table for them?
I think he'd be great for them. It'd be a Precious Paul situation all over again to have Heyman step in essence, taking that spot and guiding those guys. Because right now, Authors of Pain are in this kind of weird, fluid place where you don't know where they actually 100% belong. And one of them took a loss last night. So you're just like, well, what are you doing with this? They're called the Authors of Pain. Can I see them dole out some pain at some point? I think Heyman would do a great job with bringing their personalities out.
I think one of the things that was a real strength for the Authors of Pain in NXT was their silence. Similar to Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar was a silent killer, and that's really what helped him in this second run, when he came back after UFC, and Heyman was just the one talking for him. Now, I do think that many might think that it's a step back for Heyman, but I feel like Heyman wouldn't see it that way, because Heyman would see it as a way of helping this team grow into something. And honestly, when I watch the Authors of Pain, as much as I like them as a tag team, I feel like in the next few years, one of them is going to break out as the next big singles guy. I don't, it's hard to tell them apart. I know it's Razor and Akam is the other one, right? Akam. But I don't know which. I know when I see him, which one I'm thinking of. It's the one that's a little bigger. He's the one that. So I would like that. That's the one so far in my head that I think would be the best. Now, another one I saw a lot of was Undisputed Era being brought up from NXT with a mouthpiece of Paul Heyman.
You don't. Adam Cole is your mouthpiece, baby. Adam Cole, baby, is the mouthpiece. You don't need anybody else. It would be a glut of things to have Paul Heyman. All those guys work well on the mic, and Cole is an essence their manager. So to me, it wouldn't make any sense to bring him into. I love the idea of it, obviously, because it harkens back to the old days when these managers had multiple wrestlers. Remember Freddie Blassie, Bobby Heenan? Totally. They all had stables, right?
Even Heyman.
Even Heyman, right? Exactly. So I would love to see that kind of happen, but I don't think this is where Heyman belongs. He'll be surplus to needs.
I also think that, you know, I like those cool vignettes that they do in Disputed Era where they're very NWO-like. And I don't know if I think that Heyman would bring a cool vibe to those at all. Like, I like Heyman. I don't know if he would necessarily be the Bischoff in those NWO vibes.
And even Bischoff wasn't needed for the NWO. He was just the frosting on top of the cake, honestly.
Absolutely. Now, another one. This is the one that I actually think could be the best choice to put him with, and that's Finn Bálor. Yeah. Look, I know Finn Balor's a face. I know that you might not think that, but he has struggled on the mic. I know that Vince doesn't necessarily love his mics. We've seen he's had a few flubs in the past when he like said the wrong word here and there, and whatever. You know, I love Finn Bálor. He's great, but almost I feel like the two of them could have a CM Punk Heyman vibe, you know, harken back to that where, you know, this a little bit smaller of a guy who could still kick your ass has this guy talking all this crap for him behind him. I liked that vibe of CM Punk and Paul Heyman, and CM Punk didn't necessarily need Paul Heyman, but that was kind of why it worked so well. Like they were both these two awesome talkers that made the package a full package almost. And I feel like Finn Bálor could have the same thing.
It's a good point you bring up because I mean they were both outsiders, and so they were great to come together, and they worked so well in pushing that outsider vibe of the WWE with Punk and Heyman. But when you look at Bálor, this is a great point you bring up, Ryan, because Bálor, people have been complaining about the push for Bálor, that he's kind of been lost ever since he won the Universal Championship and then got hurt, that he has had a hard time finding his footing again. And there are rumors now with his loss to Corbin last night that he might go back to the Beast. Now, if you turn the Beast heel and make it go this, and then you have Heyman and
the Demon.
Oh, the Demon, and you make him go heel, and then maybe have the Balor Club come back and be heel, then you've got something you can play with. Absolutely.
And look at Carl Anderson. Carl Anderson is so ripped now. He's sitting there waiting for that super push, man. Like they have been sitting there for 3 years. I think it's been almost 3 years now. I saw like that their contracts are up soon. It would only make sense to finally pull the trigger on it. We bring in Finn, we get the club back together. You actually do Balor Club. You have Heyman there. I think there's so much money in that. I mean, I know that if anybody could sell the club as a force to be reckoned with, it would be Paul Heyman.
Oh, absolutely.
And as much as I love Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, they are really funny. They're more funny guys. And I'm not saying they don't have it in them to be serious, but I really think having Paul Heyman behind them, molding them, would really like drive home that like they're serious and they're gonna kick your ass now.
They could have a Nash Hall vibe if you get them right. If you get the humor them right, they could be a Nash Hall.
Agreed. Now, lastly, I want to talk about the other one that kind of got brought up a lot, and that's Ronda Rousey.
All right.
Do you think that it would make sense? I mean, obviously, Ronda Rousey has also kind of, you know, she's not necessarily the best talker. I mean, it's not her strong suit. Her strong suit is being an ass kicker in the ring, similar to a Brock Lesnar. Do you think that pairing her up with Paul Heyman would be a good idea?
I understand the correlation, and it does make sense when you look at it that it would, because she's horrible on the mic. She's a terrible actress, even for wrestling. She's a terrible actress. I thought Stephanie was one note, and then Ronda came along as really one note in capital letters. Nobody does this anymore. Nobody does this anymore. All right? And nobody goes, nobody does that anymore. So I think there would be where Heyman would really be an asset to her, because Heyman could guide her, kind of help her to get to that spot, because I think Ronda has all the possibility and potential. And I was not 100% a fan of hers when she was coming in, but to see her in the ring, it's incredible. Even the little stuff she had last night with Alexa and with Alicia Fox and all that was happening there with Natty, I thought that really worked. And so you've got to have someone who can bring that out of her. Less talking from Ronda would be great. More from Paul would be fantastic.
I do think that I'm kind of with you on that. Now, we're going to discuss the Alicia Fox, Ronda Rousey thing today. We've got our new podcast. It's the Collider Body Slam Raw recap show. It's going to be hitting the Wrestling Sheet radio feed on iTunes, wherever Podcast One, wherever you get your podcasts. And we're going to talk about all of Raw. We're going to talk about everything that happened. I mean, this Paul Heyman thing is much deeper. It's not just who's going to manage next.
Yeah.
I want to talk about all of Brock's magazines.
Yeah, I got to subscribe to Backwoodsman. I don't know where you get that, but I think Brock is going to be on the cover of the next issue. That's for sure.
All right, so we're going to talk about that. Make sure you guys check that out. It's going to hit our iTunes feed later today. And yeah, I think you guys are going to like it. Now, in the meantime, if you've got another idea for who you think would be a good Paul Heyman, person for Paul Heyman to advocate for, hit us up on social media. It's at Wrestling Sheet on Twitter. It's Wrestling Sheet on Facebook. We're on Instagram as well, also at Wrestling Sheet. You can find him on Twitter. It's at The Rocha Says. Yeah, I'm at Ryan Satin. Now, until we make another one of these videos and we're here, stay out of the dirt and keep your eye on the sheet.
ProWrestlingSheet.com